You know that moment when your whole world shifts and you realize the people you've been bending over backwards for don't actually see you at all? Yeah, that's where my story starts. Picture this. I'm sitting in my corner office on the 42nd floor, Mont Blanc pen in hand, about to sign a contract that would close a deal worth more than most people see in a lifetime. My phone lights up. Mom. I almost don't check it because I'm in the zone, you know? But something tells me to look. The message that pops up makes my stomach drop. Morgan, don't come to Thanksgiving this year. Tyler thinks you bring tension. It's better if you sit this one out. I had to read it twice, then 3 times. Because surely my own mother wasn't uninviting me from Thanksgiving because my sister's new husband, a man I'd known for all of 5 weeks, decided I was a problem. But she was. Here's the thing nobody tells you about being the daughter who made it. The one who worked her tail off, who sacrificed weekends and sleep and relationships to build something real. Sometimes your family resents you for it, not because they're bad people, but because your success makes them uncomfortable in ways they can't quite name. I set my phone down, didn't throw it, didn't cry, didn't text back some angry paragraph I'd regret later. I just looked at my assistant Jenna and said, real calm, let's push this meeting to tomorrow. She knew something was wrong. She'd worked with me long enough to read the temperature in the room, but she didn't ask, just nodded and left me alone with my thoughts. Let me tell you who I am, because my family sure as hell doesn't know. My name is Morgan Hayes. I'm 31 years old, and I'm the director of commercial acquisitions at Falcon Ridge Real Estate Group, the youngest woman to ever run a division managing over $500 million in property. I negotiate deals with developers who've been in the game since before I was born. I've got a team of 23 people under me. I sign off on projects that reshape city skylines. But to my family, I'm just Morgan who works in real estate, like I'm showing condos on the weekends or something. I stopped trying to explain years ago. It wasn't worth the blank stares or the, oh, that's nice honey responses. My sister Brittany was always the star. The pretty one. The one who did everything right. Got married young, stayed local, made safe choices. I was the weird one who worked too much and didn't have time for family dinners. And now her new husband Tyler, this guy who got promoted from customer service to team lead and acts like he invented the corporate ladder, had apparently decided I wasn't worth keeping around. The kicker? Nobody asked me how I felt about it. Nobody called to talk it through. Just a text. Sit this one out. I stayed at the office until midnight that night. Partly because I had work to do, we were finalizing renderings for a new executive tower downtown, but mostly because I needed to think. The city looked beautiful from up there, all lit up like a jewelry box. I stood at the window in my heels, arms crossed, and made a decision. If Tyler wanted me gone, fine. He'd get exactly what he wanted. But he had no idea who he was messing with, and he was about to find out. The next morning started like any other Tuesday. Coffee, emails, back-to-back calls with contractors and architects. Jenna brought me a stack of files that needed signatures, talking a mile a minute about the Skyline project delays. Then she stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes went wide, staring at something behind me. I turned around. And there he was. Tyler, standing in the doorway of my office like he'd just walked into an alternate dimension. His face was red, sweaty, confused. He looked around. At the floor-to-ceiling windows, at the massive Falcon Ridge logo on the wall, at the plaques with my name on them, like he was trying to make sense of a puzzle that didn't fit. I almost laughed. Almost. Can I help you? I said, leaning back in my leather chair. Calm. Cool. In complete control. He stammered. Actually stammered. What is this? This is my office. Why are you here, Tyler? His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. You work here? Wait, you're in charge? I tilted my head. I oversee 3 divisions. So yes, I suppose I am. I let that hang in the air for a second. Now, I'll ask again. Why are you here? He looked like he might pass out. Brittany said her sister worked in real estate. She said maybe you could help us get a meeting with someone about an investment loan. But I thought you, sold houses or something. There it was, the assumption, the judgment. coming back to slap him right in the face. I didn't move, didn't flinch, just watched him squirm. "You told my mother I shouldn't come to Thanksgiving," I said quietly. "You said I bring tension, that I ruin the vibe." All the color drained from his face. "Morgan, I didn't mean..." "Didn't mean what?" I stood up slowly. Not aggressive, just powerful. "You didn't mean to push out the person you thought had nothing to offer? You didn't mean to judge me without knowing a single thing about my life?" He stared at me, and I could literally see his ego crumbling in real time. The glass wall behind me showed the entire office floor, my team, working under my leadership. He saw all of it, and it killed him. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" he finally managed. "Why didn't you say you were this?" I smiled, small, sharp. Nobody asked. He stood there, speechless. Jenna leaned in, whispering, "Should I call security?" I waved her off. Tyler wasn't dangerous, just pathetic. "I came here for help," he muttered. "We need a loan. Brittany said you could..." "Stop." I held up one hand. "Let me be very clear. I don't mix family with business, and I definitely don't help people who disrespect me." His face turned bright red. "You can't do this. Do you know who I am?" Oh, that line. I'd heard it 1,000 times from men who thought their egos were bigger than their bank accounts. "Yes," I said calmly. "You're the man who tried to kick me out of Thanksgiving. Too bad you didn't know the person you tried to erase was sitting in the office you're now begging in." He lost it. Started yelling. Not words, just noise, frustration, rage. The sound of a man realizing he'd made a massive mistake. Everyone on the floor turned to stare. He pointed at me, voice shaking. You're embarrassing me." I didn't even blink. "No, Tyler, you embarrassed yourself." He stormed out, slamming the glass door so hard I thought it might shatter. Jenna came back in, eyes huge. Well, that was insane. I exhaled slowly, sitting back down. Yeah, and it's just the beginning. Because Tyler thought the humiliation ended here. He thought showing up at my office was the worst of it. He had no idea what was coming next. 20 minutes after Tyler left my office, my phone started buzzing. Brittany. I stared at her name flashing on the screen, debating whether to even answer. But I did. Because despite everything, she's still my sister. "What did you do to Tyler?" Her voice came out sharp, accusatory. "He just came home and he's losing his mind." I kept my voice level, professional even. "I didn't do anything, Britt. He showed up at my office unannounced, yelled at my staff, and demanded money." Silence on the other end. She wasn't expecting that answer. "Well, you could have been nicer about it." I almost laughed. Almost. "He told Mom I shouldn't come to Thanksgiving." "That's because you make him uncomfortable. You have this whole intimidating thing and you judge people and..." "I judge people?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "Britt, I haven't said 2 words to the guy. He decided who I was the second he met me." She went quiet again. Then, instead of responding, she just hung up. I stood there holding my phone, and something clicked into place. Something I'd been avoiding for years. My family didn't push me away because I was difficult. They pushed me away because I'd outgrown the version of me they were comfortable with. The quiet Morgan, the one who didn't make waves. The one who worked hard but never made anyone feel small by comparison. I'd become someone they didn't know how to fit into their narrative anymore. And you know what? That was okay, because I'd built a life that didn't need their approval. But still, there was a sting to it. A hollow ache that sits right in your chest when the people who are supposed to know you best don't know you at all. I tried to shake it off and get back to work. I had renderings to review, contracts to finalize. But I couldn't focus. Something felt unfinished. Around 6 p.m., Jenna knocked on my door. She had this look on her face, nervous, uncertain. "This just came by private courier," she said, holding out a thick manila envelope. "It's from legal, but what? You didn't request it." I took the envelope, confused, opened it. Inside was a file with a label that made my heart stop. Tyler Morris, background report. "Who requested this?" I asked. Jenna shifted uncomfortably. The courier said, "Your mother." My mother. The same woman who'd uninvited me from Thanksgiving. The same woman who chose Tyler's comfort over my presence. I sat down slowly, opening the file. And oh my God, page after page of financial disasters. Personal loans he'd defaulted on. Credit card debt in collections. A failed tech startup that burned through investor money, conveniently never mentioned to anyone in our family. But the worst part? He'd applied for a private investment loan 2 weeks ago, using Brittany's name as a co-signer. Without telling her, I felt my hands start shaking, not from anger, from clarity. That's why he didn't want me at Thanksgiving. He wasn't threatened by my vibe. He was terrified I'd get close enough to see what he was really doing, that I'd protect my sister from the trap he was setting. At the bottom of the report was a handwritten note, my mother's shaky cursive. I didn't know who else to ask. If he's going to hurt Brittany, please protect her. I read it 3 times. My mother didn't uninvite me because she wanted to. She did it because she was scared. Scared of what Tyler would do if I pushed back. Scared of conflict. Scared of making the wrong choice. But even in her fear, she trusted me enough to do this, to hire someone, to investigate, to hope I'd step in. She just didn't trust me enough to ask me directly. That hurt more than the uninvite, more than Tyler's assumptions, more than all of it, because it meant my family saw me as powerful enough to solve their problems, but not close enough to include in their lives. I closed the file and made a decision. If they wanted me out of Thanksgiving, fine, I'd stay out. But I wasn't going to stand by and watch my sister get destroyed by some insecure con artist who thought he could manipulate his way into our family. I grabbed my coat, told Jenna to clear my morning schedule, and drove straight to Brittany and Tyler's house. Not to fight, not to argue, to end this. The sun was setting when I pulled into their driveway. The house looked picture perfect from the outside. Warm lights in the windows, fresh paint, the kind of suburban dream my mother always wanted for Brittany, except it was all built on lies. I walked up to the front door, file tucked under my arm. Before I could knock, the door flew open. Tyler stood there, breathing hard, eyes wild. "You can't be here," he hissed, blocking the doorway with his whole body. I smiled, calm as anything. "Move." "No, Brittany doesn't want to see you." I held up the envelope. "Then I guess she won't want to see this either. Should I just drop it in the mail? Maybe send copies to her bank, her employer?" His face went white. "What is that?" "Your past," I said softly. "Or should I say, your present?" He stepped back, panic flooding his eyes. Because he knew. He knew exactly what was in that file. I walked past him without waiting for permission. Brittany was in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove. She turned when she heard footsteps, and her face went from confused to defensive in half a second. "Morgan, what are you—" "Don't listen to her!" Tyler rushed past me, voice cracking. "She's trying to start drama." But Brittany wasn't stupid. She'd known Tyler long enough to recognize fear when she saw it. "What did you do?" she whispered, looking right at him. I set the folder on their dining table. "Mom sent this." Brittany's head snapped toward me. "Mom?" She hired someone to look into him. She was worried. Tyler's voice went high and desperate. "She hates me. She's always hated me." "No," I said calmly. "She just didn't trust what you were hiding." Brittany reached for the folder with trembling hands. Tyler lunged forward. "Don't open that!" I stepped between them, and my voice came out cold, sharp, final. "Touch her again, and I walk out of here and send copies of this file to everyone. Her bank, her employer, every investor you've pitched to. Try me." He froze. Brittany opened the folder, and the look on her face as she read, God, I'll never forget it. Betrayal, shock, heartbreak, all of it happening at once. "Tyler," her voice broke. "Tell me this isn't true." He tried to reach for her. "Baby, listen, I just needed help. For us. For our future." "No," she said, voice shaking. "For your mess." He turned on me then, eyes blazing. "You planned this. You wanted to ruin my life." I didn't even blink. "You ruined your own life when you tried to drag my family into your debt." Brittany stood up, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Strength. Clarity. The sister I remembered before life made her small. "Get out," she told him. Tyler's face crumpled. "What? Get out of my house." For the first time since I'd met him, he looked genuinely scared. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem." He tried one last desperate card. "Your mom's going to hate you for this." Brittany's voice didn't waver. "No, she's finally going to understand why Morgan didn't come to Thanksgiving." He stormed out, slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. And then it was just us. My sister turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "Why didn't you ever tell us who you really are? What you do?" I smiled sadly. "Because nobody ever asked." She broke then, completely, and for the first time in years, she hugged me like she meant it, not as the perfect sister, not as the favorite, but as someone who finally saw me. "Stay for dinner?" she whispered. "Yeah," I said. "I'm here." But I wasn't done yet, because tomorrow was Thanksgiving, and this time I was showing up. Thanksgiving morning came with that crisp, cold bite in the air that makes everything feel significant. Like the universe is holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll do next. I stood in front of my closet for longer than I'd like to admit, trying to figure out what you wear to a holiday dinner you were explicitly uninvited to. Eventually, I settled on simple: a navy sweater, nice jeans, minimal makeup. I wasn't going there to prove anything, not anymore. I grabbed the file my mother had sent, not to weaponize it, that part was over, but because we needed to talk, really talk, for the first time in years, maybe ever. The drive to my mother's house felt longer than usual. Every red light gave me another chance to second-guess myself, to turn around, to protect myself from potential rejection. But I kept driving, because here's what I'd learned in the last 48 hours. Hiding yourself to make other people comfortable doesn't actually protect you. It just makes you smaller. And I was done being small. When I pulled into the driveway, I could smell the turkey from outside. Heard voices through the windows, aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole chaotic, messy, complicated family circus. I sat in my car for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, breathing. Then I got out. I made it halfway up the walkway before the front door flew open. My mother stood there, and I swear to God, she looked at me like she was seeing a ghost. Her hand went to her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. "Morgan?" she whispered, like she couldn't believe I was real. "I heard I wasn't expected," I said quietly. Her face crumpled. "I didn't know what to do. Tyler said you two couldn't get along, and Brittany seemed so happy, and I thought if I could just keep the peace for one day." "You believed him," I finished for her. She nodded, tears spilling over. "I'm so sorry." And here's the thing about mothers. Even when they hurt you, even when they get it wrong, there's this part of you that just wants them to see you, really see you. "I know," I said, and I meant it. She stepped aside and I walked into the house. The moment I crossed the threshold, every conversation stopped. Aunts mid-sentence, uncles holding beers, cousins scrolling on their phones. Everyone just froze. My Aunt Diane whispered to my Aunt Carol, "I thought she wasn't coming." And then Brittany appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked different than yesterday, stronger, like she'd spent the night shedding skin she'd been carrying for too long. She walked straight to me and pulled me into the tightest hug. "She told me everything," Brittany said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. My mother's eyes went wide. "Everything?" I handed her the folder. "You asked someone to look into Tyler. You were worried about Brittany, so here. This is everything you needed to know." Mom opened it with shaking hands, started reading. Her face went through about 17 different emotions in 30 seconds. "What was he planning to do?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Sign Brittany into debt to cover his own mistakes," I said simply. Gasps rippled through the room. Aunt Diane actually dropped her wine glass. "Oh my God!" My mother pressed her hand to her chest, looking at me like I'd just pulled Brittany from a burning building. "Morgan, I should have trusted you. I should have asked you. I should have—" "You should have trusted yourself," I interrupted gently. "You knew something was wrong. You just didn't want to make a mistake. So I made a worse one, she said, tears streaming now. I pushed you away to protect him. I chose his feelings over my own daughter. This right here was what I'd been waiting for. Not revenge, not vindication, just honesty. I'm not angry, Mom, I said, and I meant it. But don't ever do that again. Don't cut me out to protect someone else, especially someone who doesn't protect you back. She pulled me into a hug then. The kind of hug she hadn't given me since I was a kid, the kind that says, I see you now. I finally see you. You're staying for dinner, she said firmly, pulling back to look at me. No arguments, no excuses. I smiled. I wasn't planning on going anywhere. From across the room, Brittany called out, Mom's about to burn the turkey again. The whole room burst into laughter, real laughter, the kind that breaks tension and stitches people back together at the same time. We moved into the kitchen and suddenly everyone wanted to talk to me. Really talk. Not the polite, how's work small talk, but actual questions. So, what exactly do you do? My cousin Jake asked. I manage commercial real estate acquisitions, I said. Big developments mostly, office buildings, mixed-use towers, that kind of thing. My Uncle Pete's eyes went wide. Like, you're the one who approves those? Among other things, yeah. Holy shit, Jake muttered. And we all thought you just, showed condos. I laughed, really laughed. Yeah, I know. Why didn't you ever say anything? Aunt Diane asked. I shrugged. Honestly, nobody seemed that interested, and after a while it felt easier to just let you think whatever you wanted. My mother set down the basting brush, turning to face me fully. That's on us. We should have asked. We should have cared enough to know. You're asking now, I said. That's what matters. Brittany handed me a glass of wine. For the record, you're kind of a badass. Kind of? I raised an eyebrow. Okay, extremely. Tyler literally ran out of your office like a scared child. Wait, what? Uncle Pete leaned in. Tell us everything. So I did. I told them about Tyler showing up at Falcon Ridge, about him realizing who I actually was, about the background check and the debt and all of it. And my family, my complicated, messy, imperfect family, listened. Really listened. When I finished, my mother shook her head in disbelief. I can't believe I almost let him isolate you from us. He tried, I said. But he failed. Aunt Carol raised her glass. To Morgan, for being the person we should have appreciated all along. Everyone raised their glasses, even the cousins who usually couldn't be bothered to look up from their phones, and in that moment, I realized something. The revenge wasn't exposing Tyler. It wasn't proving my worth. It wasn't even standing in my power at the office. The real revenge, the deepest, most satisfying kind, was this: being here, being seen, being valued, being happy in a space that once made me feel invisible. Dinner was chaos in the best way. Too much food, too many people talking at once, burnt edges on the turkey that we all pretended not to notice. My mother told embarrassing stories about me and Brittany as kids. Uncle Pete argued with Jake about football. Aunt Diane drank too much wine and got philosophical about family. It was loud and messy and absolutely perfect. At one point, Brittany leaned over and whispered, "Thank you for protecting me when I didn't even know I needed it." "That's what sisters do," I said. "I haven't been a very good one." "You're here now. That's what matters." She squeezed my hand. Later, after the dishes were cleared and people started settling into food comas on various couches, my mother pulled me aside. "I need to say something," she started, wringing her hands nervously. "Okay." "I was scared of you," she admitted. "Not in a bad way, but you became this person I didn't know how to relate to. Successful and independent and so sure of yourself. And I think I felt like I didn't have anything to offer you anymore." My throat tightened. "Mom, you're my mother. I'll always need you. But you don't need me the way Brittany does. You don't ask for help. You don't call when things are hard. You just handle everything on your own. Because I thought that's what you wanted," I said quietly. "I thought if I needed less, I'd be less of a burden." She looked at me with such sadness. "Oh, sweetheart, You were never a burden. I just didn't know how to be a mother to someone who didn't need mothering the traditional way. I still need you, I said. Just differently. I want to learn how, she said. I want to know you, the real you, not the version I made up in my head. I'd like that. She hugged me again, and this time it felt like a beginning instead of an ending. As the evening wound down and people started heading home, I stood on the front porch with Brittany, watching the sun set. What are you going to do? I asked. About Tyler? Divorce, she said simply. I already called a lawyer. Good. I'm going to be okay, you know, she added. I know I leaned on him too much, made him my whole identity, but I'm stronger than I thought. You always were, I said. You just forgot for a while. She smiled. Maybe we both did. I drove home that night with the windows down, cold air whipping through the car, feeling lighter than I had in years. Tyler had tried to make me small, tried to erase me, tried to push me out. But all he did was force everyone to see what had been there all along. I wasn't the problem. I never was. I was just the daughter who stopped shrinking to fit into spaces that were too small for her. And the sweetest revenge of all? It wasn't making Tyler pay. It wasn't proving my worth to my family. It was realizing I didn't need their validation to know my value. But getting it anyway, after all this time, that felt pretty damn good too. The next morning, I woke up to a text from my mother. Sunday dinner next week? I want to hear about your work. Really hear about it. I smiled and typed back, I'll be there. Because family isn't about being perfect. It's not about never getting it wrong. It's about showing up, even when it's hard, even when you're scared. It's about being seen for who you really are. And finally, after all this time, I was.